Welcome to Rivendell. Welcome to Rivendell.
So I wanted to cover real quick, in case you're unaware, what Reaganomics are, which was affecting most families in the United States in the 1980s. Reaganomics had three specific aspects to it.
Deregulating businesses, turning government services over to private contractors, and decreasing spending on domestic social programs, including food stamps, Social Security, and disability insurance. Reaganomics was heavily based on the trickle-down theory. This argues that if you lower costs for corporations by cutting their taxes, businesses use those savings to invest. The thinking was more money for corporations would mean more jobs and higher wages for workers and thus increased spending. Most likely only a small handful of rich individuals at the top become even richer.
So while some families were doing better in the 80s, some families were not. And that's absolutely true. Mine was one of the families that was not. Yet there was a culture around wealth and the appearance of wealth. Previously, it was kind of not that fashionable to show off if you were rich. You kind of looked at, it was not looked upon fondly. In the 80s, though, there was a culture of status symbol and wealth.
I think these eras are all defined by our leaders. You know, the Reagans were a have couple. I mean, they had things. They were very appealing in certain respects, and so people followed along and felt a sense of well-being even when their own lives weren't so good.
So blessed I wore last time. For Mrs. Thatcher, and we're going to wear. Are we still on?
The Reagan years and the Reagan administration was a massive regression, if you will. We regressed back to the pleasure principle. We could have everything. We could do anything we like. We had no obligation to anyone. There was no sense of indebtedness, no sense of having to pay back. And, you know, that's the basis of the greed mentality.
And even if you weren't that wealthy, it was desirable at the time. At least the cultural messages were that it's desirable to appear rich. Now,
and that's what you wanted to become. It was okay to be an overdog, and in fact, you know, let's salute them.
I think the 80s could be called the exuberant decade. More people than ever before became entrepreneurs and wealthy entrepreneurs. This country's economy and Western Europe's economy in the 80s has been solidly, spectacularly, and almost reflected growth.
Well, Malcolm Forbes is evaluating our economy from the index of Forbes magazine and his multi-million-dollar holdings.
It was rock and roll. You could see money driving everything. A lot of cocaine around, a lot of party hardy every night.
The old guard, it took them years and years, and the new people on Wall Street, they want to do it in 2 days.
I don't say that Wall Street was always the paragon of morality before they all arrived. There have been scandals over the years and people who had, in their own way, manipulated the system for their own benefit. But now you had so many people doing, and the rewards were so great.
Wall Street is in a continuing state of shock as a result of the greatest scandal in its history.
In America, one of the great things about this nation is that we can seek profit. And I'm proud of that. If you can gain profit, that's even better.
That was Ivan Boesky a couple of years ago. Before investigators caught up with him, he had been known on Wall Street as King of the Arms, a big-time arbitrageur who invested in stocks of companies he thought were going to be taken over.
Some of the smartest and most respected traders on the street have been led from their prestigious firms by federal law enforcement authorities. One was even led away in handcuffs.